Hey everyone, this is your host, Kristen Howe with Manifest Everything Now, discovering the secrets to effortless manifestation, and I am so excited to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Hans Christian King. Hans is a true modern-day mystic. He's a direct voice medium and metaphysics expert specializing in channeling and spirit communication. Hans has been interviewed by ABC, CBS, PBS, and NBC, and has appeared on numerous radio and television shows. He's a talented storyteller and medium with a lifetime of experience in metaphysics. Gifted with the rare ability to bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual worlds, Hans literally walks in both realms. With his ability to communicate with the spirit realm and work in partnership with his guidance, he has helped more than 50,000 clients, yes, you heard me right, 50,000 clients in private readings over the last 50 years. And Hans believes that everyone is born with intuitive gifts, and he is deeply committed to his mission of teaching others how to discover their own connection to spirit. Hans speaks with extraordinary compassion on such a deeply personal level that audiences across the world have fallen in love with his simple yet powerful message. And on today's call with Hans, you will discover that spirit is always around you to help you manifest that which you deserve. You'll discover the resources that are at your disposal every minute of every day. You'll find out how to work with your guidance to direct you to your abundance, and you'll discover innovative tools and techniques you can use to instantly tap into the energy that supports your life. I know you're going to love Hans. His energy is just the most loving and warm energy you can experience. So, Hans, I have to tell you, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the call.
Oh, thank you so very much for having me. I've actually looked forward to this now for some time. I love working with you, and I love your audience. We always get such a nice response from the audience. So thank you for having me.
I am so excited, and I can't wait. I actually woke up this morning and went, oh, I know what day today is, so it's Hans Day. So that's
Hans Day. I like that.
Do you like that? Hans Day.
I like that. It's Hans Day.
So I would love, Hans, for you to share with us a little bit about you. Just give us some of your story for those of us who haven't experienced you, but also, even if we have experienced you, it's just, we always hear something different. So maybe some of the major turning points that have occurred in your life and how you've manifested the life that you have manifested.
Well, I certainly didn't start out having all this awareness that I've been blessed with. It's been an accumulation of close to 70 years. But it started very early for me. I have not met too many people that I could talk to about this because I started when I was about 3 years old. And then when I was 4, 5, 6, and so on, I was saying things to people. They would say, well, how do you know that? And I would say, I'm going to get a letter from Grandma today, and boom, there would be a letter, and I would say, well, it'll have a dollar bill in it. And just little things in the beginning, going to the supermarket with my mother at Ralph's in Los Angeles and always knowing what the total would be, even to the point where they ran bets in the market. I bet he can't do it this time. And I did it. How it worked for me is I just opened my mouth and a number would come out. I wouldn't never think about it. I wouldn't scratch my head and think. I would just, they'll say, well, how much is it today, Hans? It's $23.14. It was instant, and it was only later that I found out that's what a direct voice medium does. But when I was about 8, 9 years of age, I had a visitation from a Native American gentleman who took me up to a place out in the universe, and I later understood it to be the Akashic Record, and I used to go there every night and read these giant books. Well, I was ADD and dyslexic, and I couldn't read when I was 8 or 9 years old, but I knew everything that was on the page. It was like it was just put into my head by those people around this very long egg-shaped table. And then when I got to be about 12, it was just adult after adult after adult who would ask me questions that I never should have been involved in. Is my wife cheating? Will I have a baby? All of these types of things, and they tend to be, they'd come out exactly the way it was said. And then sometime later I I had failed an exam, and I failed a lot of exams. And I was sitting on a bus bench in Hollywood, where I was born in Hollywood, California. And I was sitting on a park bench, and I had failed, and I just started to cry, and I said to Spirit, "Why me? Why have you done this to me?" Because I had by then built up a wonderful, loving relationship with the Spirit. I knew they were benevolent. They were there to help me and love me. And I said, "I failed this. I can't learn this." And they said, "Well, son, it's not important what they want you to know, but it's very important what we want you to know. And what we want you to know one day will help thousands of people. You will learn what you need to learn, but it will not be their way." And it never was.
Wow.
So, of course I read and write and do math and all that now. But then, in those formative years, they didn't want that information in my head, because they said to me, no two things can be in the same place at the same time. So they pulled back on my ability to learn in order for them to fill the vessel of who I was with the spiritual knowledge and awareness that they wanted me to know. And it is borne out now. That was, of course, the correct thing to do, needless to say.
Needless to say, absolutely. I'm so glad you listened and that was the case, because you've helped so many people. So let me ask you this, because we're talking about manifesting. And manifesting, by the way, and everybody, this is an amazing audience, and they know that, sure, when we talk about manifesting, it might be the external things that we want to manifest, or as I know I've heard you say in some of your recordings, which I listen to all the time, by the way, that you want to experience. But really, when we talk about manifesting, we're talking about from the inside out. So
that is correct, absolutely.
So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on manifesting and what that is, and how can we connect in a way that helps us get out of our own ways so that things, can start appearing in ourselves and in our lives?
I would like to remind everybody a little line in the good book, and it said, "And God will send his angels to have charge over thee." Angel comes from the Greek translation of the Bible. It means messenger or bearer of information. So when we're born, we are born with our angels, our guides, our helpers, our friends. But we are so educated in the "this is the way it is" world that we are not aware that there is another reality that we are totally connected to, that we've shut the door to. We came from that reality. We are transitioning back to that reality every year that we live. So there is a very thin line of prosperity that flows throughout the world. It has always been there. It is called abundance. It has always been there. It has never not been there. It's just what we need to learn to do is to stop allowing the mind chatter to separate it. For instance, the very term when we say, "I would like abundance, I am seeking abundance," what have we actually said in spiritual language to Spirit? What did we just say there? We said, "I'm not in abundance. Abundance is not operating with me." And so you're adding a negative response to a positive dream. And it doesn't work. The law of abundance is always abundance. In other words, if you want abundance, be abundant. Since we draw to us that which is our own consciousness, if we're saying we want abundance, but we don't think we're going to get it, or we don't know if we're going to get it, we won't. If you read a book by anyone that you would consider to be successful in whatever endeavor they know, somewhere in that book they will always say these words, "And I always knew it." They knew it when they were a child. They knew it when they were in their 20s and 30s. And even when they lost everything, they knew they'd have it back. And it always works. So I try to teach, be that which you are trying to acquire today. We always have a tendency to look for what isn't there, what is missing. So if you want abundance in your life, be abundant. Now that is not the easiest thing to do. It takes a little time.
And what is something that you could recommend we do to begin that? Because I know, so many people listening, they get this and they accept this, and yet there's still that part of their brain that goes, but if I feel so disconnected from it, how do I step into being it?
Because their perception is saying they're disconnected. Nothing could be further than the truth. From the truth, nothing. They're believing they're disconnected from it, therefore they will be. It's just that simple. You can't become an actress. You either are or you are not. You can't become a truck driver. You dreamed of since you were a kid, drive the big rigs. You're either a truck driver or you're not. It's that simple. Energy follows thought. Period.
And I agree with this. Do you feel that abundance truly is available to all of us all the time?
All of us, all the time, irregardless, my friend, of what dharma somebody may be involved in. It surrounds us. Love is our abundance. It is always with us. We are never separate from God. We are never separate from the source, ever. And the source holds the abundance. It's called unconditional love, loving yourself, accepting all the bounty of the universe to be yours. Don't we love a story by somebody who came from abject poverty or unbelievable pain and suffering as a child to becoming this great, great person in our world? Do you think in their consciousness that their consciousness ran the words, and I always know I'm never going to make it?
No.
Never. They always knew somewhere in them was a driving force that says, I am that which I am seeking. And once this begins to click inside of you, wait a minute, I'm asking for something that I already have, but I have an awareness of how it needs to look so I can accept it. Like a check for $500,000. Then I'm abundant. What most people don't realize is having options is abundance. Loving your dog is abundance. Most people don't realize that they can take the power of the abundance that is around them and with working with spirit, direct it in a way that really makes you feel wonderful. There's no point in having a lot of money if you don't have wonderful things to do with it, right?
Absolutely.
If it's just sitting in the bank, it isn't doing you or anybody else any good. Okay? Yeah. So have wonderful things to do with it. I know somebody who makes about $1,300,000 a day, every day of their life. Okay? And doesn't have to work for it. But what they do with it is phenomenal. You see? So, if you want to be abundant, stop asking for it. Because every time you ask to be abundant, you have said, I am not abundant, or I don't deserve to be abundant. That's a tough one.
It's so powerful, though, and so let me ask you this. Let's say our perception is that we're feeling cut off from financial abundance, and we know, so we go, yes, Hans, that's absolutely right. I do need to step into my abundance and embrace what is already mine. So you mentioned, and I love that you said this, playing with your dog can be and feel abundant. So if you then direct yourself to something like that, you're getting in the state of abundance. Will that open the abundance in every area of your life?
Absolutely, my dear friend. Absolutely. In a heartbeat. I'm trying to get your friends here to understand they have to take some steps to move into that sphere of abundance. And you can start with the smallest thing. I'm sitting here now in my office in North Carolina. I'm looking out my office window, and I can count 25 tomatoes on my tomato vines. To me, that's abundance. I participated. I bought those plants. I thanked them for growing, and there they are. Small things. Start with the small things. Because once the spirit sees the intention, that's what they do. They never look at the deed. They only look at the intention. Once they see that you have shifted your perception and reset your intention, they will then step up. They will say he or she is now ready for that abundance which they came into this world to participate in.
Wow, I love that. That completely resonated with me. So I love that you just said that. That kind of, my brain just went, pooh.
It does, right? When you're talking about spirit. And it's interesting. I listen to you as you resonate, as you catch that. And I know that thousands of other people are doing that. We don't see it because our mind chatter is so pervasive. And it's in charge. And it thinks it knows. It doesn't know what. All it can do is tell you what you're not going to be able to pay this month because you don't have enough money.
Right.
But if you do this, and once you've learned how to do this, it is absolutely amazing. You say to Spirit, thank you for paying my bills this month. This is a list of my bills and the total. I'm putting this away here, knowing that these will get paid. I don't care how they get paid. I don't want to know how they get paid. I know that they will be paid. And always they are. And I've had people come back and say, yes, but I just barely made it. Who cares? You made it. Okay?
You made it.
So when you're asking for something, also, everybody out there, when you're asking for a particular source or a kind of abundance, if you will, you have to go deep inside of yourself. And you have to ask, am I asking for something that I really believe I deserve? Or am I using this as a way to see whether or not I'm good enough for God?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Wow. Okay, so let's talk about the concept of deserving.
Yes.
Do we all deserve everything, and
yes.
what we think we deserve is the only thing that limits us?
Yes, absolutely, 1,000%. We all, and I'm going to go back again, irrespective of what our dharma is.
Okay.
There is no limitation by the universe, by the Spirit, by the God force. There is no limitation placed on us other than our own mind chatter. All of you out there, all of you can do the same thing. I've said now for 50 years, the greatest destructive force in human nature is mind chatter. Because the universe never tells you you can't do something. The universe never tells you you're ugly. The universe never tells you you'll never have enough. Your mind chatter does that. So when you pray to Spirit, as I've taught many of you, that when you ask Spirit for something, you say, I would like the experience of the following, please. You must come from a place that says, I am perfect for that I've asked for. I deserve this. I'm not asking God to prove that He loves me or she loves me. I deserve this. This is part of my own abundance. Once you get that understanding inside of yourself, you then begin to set the intention with the abundance of Spirit, and then things begin to work for you. And I've had people say to me, you cannot imagine how this happened. Yes, I can. God moves in mysterious ways, the wonders to behold.
So how do we let go? How do we let go of the...
We have to deserve better.
Thinking that we don't deserve. Yeah, exactly.
We have to deserve better than what we've led ourselves to believe we deserve. Who said those things? Where did that come from? Who said you don't deserve a new car? Who said you don't deserve to live in a lovely home and be happy? Who said that? People say, well, policy apparently is dictated that I don't. No, you fed the policy that says I don't. It's just that simple. I make it sound simple, my friend, but it isn't, because the mind is so very strong in its conviction of lack. I had a friend of mine who lost his home in the Great Recession. Banks swindled him. Bank said to fill out these papers. We'll refinance your house. Anyway, they lied. All of that. And he left the house. And one day, good man, I said, what do you want? He said, I'd like to get my house back someday. Well, meanwhile, the bank had the house. And one day, there was a letter that came, and it was from the United States government. And they said, we have sued this bank, and we're giving you back your house because we won. And they gave him back the house at 2% loan, canceled one half of the mortgage. And I said, how do you think that happened? He says, because I listened to you. I said, what? He said, when I asked for it, I knew I deserved it, and I knew it was coming. I didn't know how. I didn't let my mind try to figure out how. So this is what I'm talking about, is that once this thin layer of abundance which surrounds our planet, which is pervasive in the universe, once your mind shatter says, oh, I can see it now, then everything about you moves in that direction, out of fear. So it is, to some degree, a perceptual shift. But everyone can do it. I have yet to meet anybody who really tried who couldn't.
I love hearing that. Okay, so you said when we're born, we're all born with our angels, our guides.
Every one of us, yes.
So how can we, and maybe you have some things that we can do, how can we start to work with our guidance, with those guides, to help direct us to our abundance? Okay,
this will sound so simple. Believe it. Believe them. Stop waiting for Spirit to prove itself to you. There's a wonderful line in the Bible that I love that says, blessed is he who in knowing serves, but twice blessed is he who in not knowing serves anyway. Set your intention to believe. And when you set your intention to believe, Spirit will prove itself to you by deeds. Always. But you can't test the Spirit. Say, well, if you're there, you'll make Johnny call me tonight. No, that's not the way it works. But if you were to say, I set my intention for a loving, personal relationship of unconditional love with someone who can see me and who I can see. If you set that intention and then stop looking for it to manifest, because when you start to look for it, you're setting expectations. And what are expectations? They're limitations. Know it, that when you set it, everything, my friend, in my life I ever set my intention for, I have received. Okay? So I know that the law of abundance is like the law of attraction. If you want to see your reflection in the mirror, then stop saying how ugly you look when you see your face. Because the light of who you are is internal, and it is connected directly to the power of Spirit, to the power of God. You cannot be separate of your abundance, but you can refuse to accept it, and that's what millions of people do. They refuse to accept the abundance they already have, and one of my pet peeves is that they suffer their choices. I've never understood that in my entire life.
Say that again and tell me what you mean.
Okay, I'll give you an example. I had a lady come to see me a while back, and she said, I've been married to the same man for 36 years. Every weekend he beats me. And Spirit got, sort of amazed, and they said to her in the reading, no, he only beat you once. She said, no, every weekend he beats me. And here are some pictures. She brought the pictures for me to see. Look what he's done to me. I said, he hasn't done anything to you. He beat you once. She said, but never. I said, no, honey, you beat yourself after the first beating. But her perception was her husband was beating her. No, he hit her once, and we all, as smart men and women, know what we do with that one. Instead, she stayed with a person that she thought that's all she could get. That's what she deserved, and therefore that's what she put up with. Never shifting into abundance. Wait a minute. I deserve better than this person. I deserve better treatment than this. And following that path onto a new relationship. She stayed for 36 years with the same person that she said beat her, because that's all she thought she deserved. For many people in abundance, they take what they have because they think that's all they deserve. Now, this is one thing that I'm really strong on. There is nothing going on in anyone's life today that they did not create at some level. We keep making ourselves victims of our history, but the truth of the matter is we chose this life. That's number one. Number two, we choose our boyfriends, girlfriends, clothes, school. We even choose our parents. So the wonderful thing about that is you don't have to suffer it. If it's not working for you, tap into the flow of abundance, which creates possibilities and new beginnings to happiness and joy. And everyone is entitled to that.
I love that, and I think it's so true, because I think people are scared to not be victims, but I see that there's so much personal power in claiming that you've created everything in your life. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge power. When you realize, when I first heard that, it was from Dr. James Allen in his book, As a Man Thinketh. He said, they themselves are makers of themselves. In my 56 years of being in service, it is the hardest single lesson I have ever tried to teach anyone. Of all the lessons I've taught, that they themselves are makers of themselves. Do not suffer your choices, because you have options of abundance every second of every day. You do not have to stay in this situation whatsoever.
Let me ask you this. Because this does happen, where, and I think we've all experienced feeling very connected to spirit, where we feel like, whoa, I don't even know how this happened, but it did, and that's an amazing thing, and then we get disconnected. So are there ways that we can quickly, as opposed to wasting all our time being like, I'm disconnected, this is terrible, now I've ruined everything. Are there ways that we can just identify that we're disconnected and reconnect?
Yes. The minute the mind chatter starts the doubt, the second, remember, Spirit will never tell you anything's wrong with you. Never. Will never interfere into your consciousness, ever. The minute any fear, doubt, confusion starts, stop at that moment, everybody, and say, wait a minute, is this a loving thought coming from my God and my guides, or is this my mind chatter trying to confuse me and cause me pain? And then turn to that mind chatter and says, no. Because remember, all of this sadness, all of this stuff can only live in the house that you build for it. If you refuse to allow yourself to build a home for negativity, for doubt, for fear, for anger, for resentment, if you refuse to allow the house to be built, it has no place to live. Because these emotions only come to visit us. It's up to us if we want to house them or not. And you can literally stop the flow of negative thinking within 2 weeks. Absolutely stop it. You do not have to become a victim of this thinking. Remember, the mind thinks it knows, but all the mind is an accumulation of memories, of thoughts, of other people's ideas of us, of fear we see on TV or wherever we get it from, prejudice, all this stuff is just from somebody else that we absorb, and then we begin to react out of that. So you have options. The universe is so abundant that at the end of my radio show every Thursday night, I said, and remember everyone, that God does not love anyone more in this world than you. And when I say that to big audiences, you can see people, ordinary people, with tears coming down their face. That is a concept that they don't have. But if you know that God loves you as much as anyone else in this world, then how can anyone else have more than you? And what would you care if they did? Because nothing you're going to do, nothing you're going to acquire, do you ever get to keep. It's about the abundance of where you are at the moment, which can lead to financial abundance, relationship abundance, personal abundance. Shifting out of being a victim of how you perceive your life is into the manifestation of abundance through belief and setting your intention is utterly phenomenal. Everyone can do it. No one is exempt from the love of God and Spirit. No one. Now, it's called going to war with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's called reprogramming or brainwashing yourself back to who you actually are. You see, you've been brainwashed into believing the negative aspect about you and about the universe, which isn't true in the first place. Now, brainwash yourself back to your naturalness, which is the love, the flow of Spirit in your personal and daily life. And it takes about 2 weeks. That's through the years, that's what I've seen. But you have to set the intention to do so. And when you set the intention to do so, then your guides, with the help of the Great Spirit, begin to move the energy toward you that gives you the strength to do that. But don't give up part way and say, oh, this is never going to work because the mind chatter keeps coming back. Yes, but if each time it does, if you stop it and don't let it run its crazies at 2 o'clock in the morning, am I going to get fired? Will they repossess my car? Am I going to have enough money to pay the rent? If you don't allow that, and you say, I trust and believe that God is sitting on my shoulder, and I will be led where I need to be in love and abundance. And you keep saying that, and you don't give power to the negative has no place to go, and it will die, always.
So setting intentions, that's really our way of letting our guides know how to help. Okay. So can you set too many intentions? Is there...
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can set too many in the beginning. The beginning. Okay. As you're working through the transition of being in fear and doubt to being in love and joy, making that transition, try not to set too many intentions because the Spirit is very busy getting you disconnected from the other. But the minute you are disconnected, then you can just go hog wild.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's really
I'll give you an example of
our
something.
learning curve.
Her name is, look at Joan Rivers.
Okay.
Now, you may like her, you may not like her. But she never stops looking forward because she believes.
Yep.
She has been kicked down, knocked down, had her husband die, they stole her business, millions of dollars, but she never, ever stops believing. If you watch her, at the age of 80, she's still generating new income, generating new possibilities. She never stops. I don't think everyone has to go to that extent unless you want to. But she's operating in the power of belief. And that's what I want everyone to understand, is that when you shift out of the power of doubt, and I don't know, and maybe not, and I hope, that hope is such a lovely word, but it doesn't mean anything near what you think it means. Hope means doubt. It means doubt.
Yep.
Hope means I don't know. That's doubt. So you want to, rather than hope, know. I know my bills are not going to be paid. I know my bills are being paid. I know that new job is on the way as I'm sitting here where I know it. And so you keep adding the positive energy, and it works. Because I go back to that statement always that energy follows thought.
I love that. Okay, so at first, we keep our intentions more simple purely because we're kind of growing our beliefs. But then once our beliefs get there, we can, as you said, and I love it, go hog wild. Now here's another question. You can go hog
wild, absolutely.
Which, that's so much fun and something to look forward to. Now here's my next question. This is something else I hear a lot, which is people saying, well, I don't want to bother Spirit or my guides with my intentions. They seem so small in comparison to what other people need.
Absolute nonsense. Every person's wish is equal to every other person's wish, period. There are no stupid questions. I get a lot of people who say to me, this will sound like a very stupid question. I say, the only stupid question is the one you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Spirit is there for you. They are working with you. If you want to know where you're driving them crazy, continue to deal with your life the way people have been dealing with deny themselves their abundance, deny themselves their joy, be victim of their decisions. That's what drives the spirit crazy. But when they see your intention shifts into, yes, I am, yes, I can, yes, I'm doing this, yes, I'm setting my intention this day. I get on my email service every single day, Angel, somebody saying, those words have changed my life. They're not my words. They're the words of the Spirit. That's what I was taught. Like Christ said, I myself can do nothing. But every time you smile, your guides smile. Every time you cry, they cry. You are so connected to the power of Spirit, and you have no idea that it's going on. So I say to people, don't deny themselves the abundance of being Spirit in human form. Wow.
That's beautiful. I just absolutely love that. Does Spirit ever leave someone?
No. Often, this is my own language here, so oftentimes they rotate each other. Sometimes somebody comes in earlier, like in your teens or your childhood, and they work with you, and then they're set to come back in your mid-40s, and then somebody else comes in. We all have about 3, 4, 5 guides. Most of us do. I like to say we have guides, we have masters, guides, helpers, and friends. You know, I used to say, you want to know what God thinks about money? Look who they give it to. Because some of the most unhappy people I have ever seen are people who are very wealthy.
Now, does that mean, because there are also some extraordinarily happy people with a lot
Absolutely.
of money. So what's the difference there? Is it really about the money, or is it about the person?
It's about the person.
Yeah. So money isn't evil or bad.
No, there's nothing. It says it's the love of money. It's not the love of money. It is, what is the intention behind the love of the money? If someone says to me, more than anything else, I want to build a center in Tegucigalpa in Honduras, and they are sincere, somehow they will find a way to build a center. I have seen it on this one hundreds of times, for people with the best and sweetest of intentions, but for whatever reason others didn't believe in their dream. I've seen one person show up in their dream and change their entire life, at least 100 times on that one. So every one of us is connected to that goodness of Spirit. I think the biggest problem for all of us is the mind chatter.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm sitting here thinking the 2-week thing of, going at war with yourself in that way. I love that, because I think everybody here, take this on, because it's worth it. Wow.
It is connected directly to the source of Spirit. And when the two of them get together and they give each other a hug, you just open the pathway for whatever abundance you feel you would like the experience of. You no longer say you can't have it. You no longer criticize yourself. You no longer get angry with other people, because you have come to you.
I just love, okay, so people that because I'd love to hear, you're so powerful. Everything that's coming through you is so powerful and so spot on with what, I know that I've heard people are struggling with, this extraordinary group of people listening, they communicate with me and let me know what they're struggling with, and this is so spot on. Can you give us an idea of what, maybe some of the things that you've seen people experience, some of the transformations with people who have worked with you with all of this? Any stories you can think of?
Oh my God, child, there's just so many of them.
There's so many.
I remember a little girl of 17 came to see me in Monterey many years ago. And she was being raised by her grandmother because her parents had been divorced. Her father became an alcoholic, and he physically, I don't mean sexually, but physically, we would hit her and abuse her. The mother always told her she'd never amount to anything, and why was she drawing on these pages? Nothing she ever drew would ever amount to anything. And her grandmother came to see me, and in the course of the reading, the granddaughter came up. And so she said, Hans, is she too young to come and see you? I said, no, it'll be fine. I'd be happy to help her. Well, the granddaughter came to see me, and in the course of the granddaughter coming to see me, a man, an Aboriginal man from Australia, came through into her reading. He said, I am her master guide. And he says, this one is destined for greatness in design. And I said, okay. And he said to her, child, you are limiting yourself by what your parents have told you.
Mm.
Get rid of the mind chatter. Because she said to me in the reading, I'll never amount to anything because that's what my parents told me. And we explained to her why that wasn't true and what she could do. And she was startled by the Aboriginal man because as a child, she was attracted to Kakadu, Aboriginal homelands, and the hand paintings and all of these things. She never knew why. Well, the long and the short of it is that Spirit said to her, you must travel to Bali in the not-too-distant future to find your past and to begin your tomorrows. And, of course, she said, well, I don't have any money like that. I could never do anything. That would take thousands of dollars. Her grandmother said, when is your 18th birthday? Oh, that's right. It's next month. On her 18th birthday, her grandmother took out a small mortgage against her house and sent her to Bali for 6 months. She now singularly is one of the finest artisans of batiks and Balinese paintings in the world today. She's worth millions of dollars. She met her husband there. So you see, when people walk into their possibilities, she did. I've seen people. I remember a man came to see me one day, and he was sitting there, and he had a little ball of clay in his hand. And I noticed that when he bounced it, the clay came back up into his hand. I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. Bounced it, and up it comes. In any case, Spirit said to him, you must go and take this and do something with it. And he said, oh, no. He said, my son and I like to play in the garage, and we have a chemistry set. He said, we just created this. He says, listen, nothing good has ever happened to me, and nothing good is ever going to happen to me. But he said, I just came to see if my son would be all right after I die. In the process of the reading, the Spirit encouraged him. And eventually he sold a piece of clay, and it's now called Silly Putty.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, come on, let it be Silly Putty. That's amazing.
It was Silly Putty. And he said, I never would have believed it. Luckily, his son, who is a wonderful young man, he totally believed. And they went on to make more inventions before the fellow passed away. But when people know, I've had people come to me and say, I knew I would never amount to anything. My life is just about maintenance. And I will say to them, that's very true, and that's where it's going to stay. And they get very angry with me and say, I thought you were this loving man. Well, I said, I am. I said, well, you just told me I'll never amount to anything. No, I said, you did. You told me you would never amount to anything. I never said such a thing. You'll amount to whatever you want to amount to. And I've seen their lives change. I've got an actress friend of mine who's an Academy Award winner who when she first came to see me, she hadn't worked in 10 years and all this stuff. And Spirit says, it's because you don't believe anymore. She said, no. She said, I'm obviously not any good anymore. Nobody wants to work with me. So as long as you keep that idea, nobody will. We got her to shift her consciousness into what's on the way. And 4 months later, a job came. Anyway, she wound up getting an Academy Award. But I'm just saying to you that there are, every day, thousands of people change their life by shifting their perception on this issue. Everybody can do it. Nobody's exempt from it.
Wow. I love that, and I think it's so powerful. And I love what you're doing, but you're helping people tap into their guidance, I guess is a good way. Is that a good way of putting it?
Absolutely.
Okay. See, I love that, and because I personally take great comfort in that, and have for years, and I get excited about being able to share that with everyone. And obviously, there's so much, Hans, and you and I were talking about this before we started the call. But I asked you to create a special offer for everyone who's listening, and you have, and it's absolutely magnificent what you've put together. So what I'd love to do, if this works for you, Hans, is I want to give everyone the link and then have you sort of quickly guide them through what they'll find there. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Wonderful. Okay, so everyone, and really please go to this because it's so powerful, and this is from the heart that I am saying this. That's manifesteverythingnow.com/deserve, spelled DESERVE, and Hans, I'll let you take it from here and let us know what we'll find.
There's probably close to 20 products, and they range anywhere from how to manifest love in your life, how to manifest education, money, how to bring spirit into your life in abundance. There is no topic on abundance that is not covered in the offer today. I think it's the greatest offer I have ever given, to be honest with you. I mentioned that to you before the show.
Yeah.
I've never put this package together like this ever. And there's so much new information here on where you fit on the path of abundance. And there are lessons in here. There are all kinds of strategies, spiritual strategies to use. And sometimes what doesn't work for one person works for another. And so there are so many different products on abundance, and several of them are how to become personally attached to abundance. In other words, lessons and techniques of how to come out of the space that you were in into the abundance mode. Because we have to get to the abundance mode or the abundance path before we can get to the abundance. So half of the journey, honestly, is disconnecting from what isn't working anymore. At least half. So what I'm seeing here for everyone is that these things that we have put together, I don't think there's a subject, honestly, on abundance that is not covered in this package.
Okay, so, quick question, actually. What's the difference between abundance and manifesting, or is there a difference?
There is a slight difference.
Okay.
Abundance is a state of mind. Manifestation is an intention to acquire something. I think that's the better way to go myself.
Okay, wonderful. I love that, and I love that. First of all, we gave you the keyword deserve. manifesteverythingnow.com/deserve for a reason, and I love that message that we all deserve, and we all deserve
absolutely.
Everything. I think that's such a beautiful and well needed message. And I think you're right. I mean, that mind chatter is largely what's standing between us. What are some of when people are working with any of the countless things that you're giving them today, which is just incredible, what are some of the things that people can expect to start experiencing or feeling, right away?
Oh, well, first of all, let's start with the absolute reality here. When they start to work with this, the mind chatter will go crazy. It does not want to hear that it's not in control anymore. So what you're doing with the product is shifting out of the mind chatter into the heart love. The heart has its own mind, the spiritual mind. But on the way out of, and that's in the beginning of the lessons, on the way out of, the mind will throw every conceivable thing it can at you. But after a day or two, watch and see if you don't wake up just a little lighter, just feeling a little lighter. And that lets you know, oh, it's working. Because inside of us is stored so much pain, anger, and resentment from our history that we no longer even see it. We don't even see it anymore. We think it's just the way we feel. So by disconnecting from the mind chatter, the mind has to start turning loose of what you've been holding on to, and that can cause some confusion. And then you begin to feel every day a little bit lighter, and suddenly you'll say, oh, look, I just got this. Isn't that amazing? I'll give you a quick example because I know we have to go. A lady wanted to attend my half-set copy in Los Angeles a while back. She didn't have the money, and she emailed me. And I just said back to her, I said, did you ask God for it? She emailed back, no. I said, then you must not want to go that bad. So she asked God for it. She said that someone had told her mother that she wanted to go to this thing. And that her and her mother hadn't talked for 5 years, but they still had a mutual friend. The mother sent her the check. Furthest thing from her consciousness whatsoever. That's what I'm talking about. Things begin to come out of the woodwork as you start to pass into belief and into your own personal power. Things just show up, and that's part of how you'll know. And what these gifts that we have in our offer today do is they hold you all along the way. They don't take you to a certain place and drop you. They take you to a certain place, pick up, and the next set of things happen, and the next set of things. So they lead you forward in a progression of belief and love.
I love that, in a progression, because that's so important, that we are gently and lovingly progressed. I think
right. We are, and that's exactly what it is.
I love that. Okay, so everyone, let me give you this link again. It is manifesteverythingnow.com/deserve, spelled DESERVE. And Hans, I just have to thank you from my heart, from my soul. Your energy it's so warm and loving, and you bring that to everyone who's listening, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
Oh, you're a very kind soul.
And Hans, I would love to ask if you have any final words you want to send us off with today.
I think it goes back to what I say on my radio show, and that God doesn't love anyone more than you. I want everyone who hears that today to go sit down, be very still, and say, oh my goodness, God loves me as much as anything in the world. I am important to God. Therefore, I must be important to me. I don't have to have these fears, have these doubts. God is my co-pilot, and I accept Spirit into my life. There are so many ways you can reinforce yourself, but you have to start with the intention. That's the key.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Everyone, you're an extraordinary group of people. I am thrilled to be here with you, and please really listen to what Hans just said about intention. I think that's just fantastic, and I know it's going to help you so very much. And Hans, again, thank you. Everyone listening, thank you, and until the next time, keep manifesting. Bye-bye, everyone.